we in agreement that it's 8.1 when
Yes.
it's constructed?
Yes.
Okay. You had me worried there for a minute.
No, okay.
And I don't know if everybody's familiar with that property. I am. I used to live 2 doors down, actually, many years ago. And it's all woods in the back.
Yes.
There's a landlocked parcel that probably your nearest neighbor to the rear is well over 100 feet away.
That's correct.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay.
Just before moving it along to Mr. Nicanello, I want to tell you, anybody in the audience, that my esteemed colleague next to me, Mr. Igo, apparently has lived in just about every neighborhood of this town because he's familiar with every parcel in the town. So just be careful if you think you're going to pass anything by him. Mr. Nicanello.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming to the Board of Appeals. Yeah.
Well, my first time, so.
So it says on the field card you have a 3-bedroom now?
Yes, it's 3-bedroom now.
So it'll be a 4-bedroom when you're
No,
done?
we're just extending we're extending one of the existing bedrooms.
Okay, you're extending the one, and you're going to add another bathroom. Does that require the Board of Health to look at it? I don't see anything in my...
Bruce will want to look at it, yeah, I'm sure.
So you haven't been to the Board of Health yet?
No.
Okay. I also noticed that you've had the house for a long time.
Yes, I have.
Have you done any work on the house at all?
New roof, new windows.
Okay. Did you ever pull a permit?
I believe the roofer did.
Okay.
The windows I put in myself, so I don't think I pulled the permit. Didn't know what that was required.
Yes, it is. Anything on the outside of your house is required by a building permit, whether you do it or not.
Okay.
So at this point, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly.
I think, being that that it is landlocked with that property, the woods back there, I don't think it's going to cause any problems for the neighbors. So I don't see any reason, especially under the circumstances, that something like that can't be appeased.
Very good. So I'm a bit confused. Are we ending up with 3 or 4 bedrooms, gentlemen?
3.
3. Because the permit, the septic
Septic
system
is a
that's there is
3-bedroom.
only good for 3, right?
Correct.
Maybe require some upgrades, you understand, right? I don't know. Is it passed yet?
We haven't, this is our first meeting to do this. But my understanding is if you have a,
Assuming we were to give you, the special permit, which is what I think is required here
Okay.
tonight, unless my colleagues disagree with me. Assuming we were to give you that relief, you understand we would require it very likely to be 3 bedrooms, and only 3 bedrooms.
that's correct.
Require Board of Health compliance, and also, quite frankly, well, I'm going to let it go. But 3 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms only, I think, is the biggest concern I have. I do think, though, that I hear Mr. Nicanello loud and clear. This is a fairly old home, and if work is being done on it, it does require building permits. So I think maybe we ought to also condition it upon an inspection by the building inspector, okay, for any work that has been done on it, okay, since you've owned it. Does anyone in our audience care to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the microphone. Does anyone care to speak in opposition to it? Seeing none, we now close the public commentary on it. We open up the board discussion and deliberations. Mr. Kelly, your thoughts?
Well, like I said, under the circumstances, that's the only place it could go, and if it's something that's necessary for the family, I don't see why we shouldn't be able to, as long as under the guidelines of staying a 3-bedroom. And the Board of Health, as you said, I think it's fine.
Thank you. Mr. Nicanello.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. It seems the gentleman is very admirable in helping his family members. He's been in the community for a very long time, and I think with the property behind him with no neighbors, it does seem like a modest adjustment. But again, anything on our structure does require a visit to the building department, so thank you.
Mr. Igo.
Yeah, no, I think it's a reasonable request. I think they meet the standard under the bylaw. I don't think it's going to be more detrimental to the existing structure or more detrimental to the neighborhood. So I would be in favor of it, and I would agree with the conditions that you suggested.
Okay, and Mr. Campbell?
Is this, one more question, this is a summer home, right?
Yes. I plan to retire next year, so I'm going to be using it as my primary residence.
And this is for the additions for your mother? Is that
No,
what-
it's for my son-in-law.
For your son-in-law?
Yes. He's in a wheelchair.
Okay. That's all I have. But the only comment I have to the board is, with the Board of Health, I mean, do we have, they're just adding a bathroom, I mean,
Well, they still have to go make sure.
They've got to make a determination that they're satisfied it's
Right.
three-bedroom and that the system,
Right.
meets the requirements. They're making a pretty substantial change here, so.
That's all I
In echoing Mr. Igo's comments, I think that you do meet the criteria of a special permit and that no undue hazard, nuisance, nor congestion will be created. And as he said, nor will it be detriment to the character of the neighborhood of town. So I think I can speak favorably, or vote favorably upon a motion, provided it has appropriate conditions. Those conditions I would suggest is that we state clearly that it's to be utilized as a three-bedroom only, that the building inspector inspect any work that's been performed on that home during your ownership. And that the Board of Health, of course, approve before any construction proceeds, okay?
I'd like to make a motion that we grant the special permit as requested with the conditions that you just named.
Second.
And, a second. On that motion made by Mr. Igo and on the stated conditions, seconded by Mr. Nicanello, does the board care to have any discussion before moving along to a vote? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Carries unanimously. Decision will be drafted. It will be filed with the town clerk's office. 20 days from the date of filing must elapse.
Variance?
Yeah, we'll get to the variance in just a minute. Thank you, because I would have overlooked it.
That's okay. Teamwork.
20 days must elapse before that decision is considered viable.
Right.
Okay, and that a special permit would be granted and then recorded at the Barnstable Registry of Deeds. I'm sure you've been through this before, but,
I know,
our
yeah.
wonderful board assistant, Sandra Clark, is here to help with anything, and Sandy is more intelligent about all these and up-to-date about
Yes,
all
she
these
is.
things than we are as board members. We so rely upon her exquisite skills. Thank you, John. Oh, one other thing, you've requested a variance, too. We usually ask petitioners to not require us to vote on that, other than to allow its withdrawal without prejudice. Is that something you'd like us to do tonight?
I think so. Is that what I want? Yes.
Yeah, it's without prejudice. We're
Okay.
not- Nothing's being prejudiced.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. That carries unanimously as well. The variance is therefore considered withdrawn, but without prejudice, okay?
Yep.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. It's a good thing Mr. Nicanello is my conscience sitting next to me over here. Let me tell you. The next petitioner is welcome to come up to the table. Oh, we have more people join us tonight. How exciting. And that's petition number 4843, that of Richard M. Densman, 9 Sachem Path, West Yarmouth, Mass. That property is located in R25 zoning district. This evening, our applicant seeks a variance from zoning bylaw 203.5 for front setback relief for a new 10-foot by 12-foot shed on a pre-existing non-conforming lot. Would you tell us who you are?
Rick Densman.
And
Okay.
Lisa Densman.
Okay, very nice. Who's going to tell us all about this tonight?
I'll start off. Just one correction, it's a 10 by 15, not a 10 by 12.
What did I say? Oh, I'm sorry, 10 by 15.
Okay,
Wow, must have been a long day for me
that's
today.
okay.
Thank you for correcting me. Go ahead, please, and tell us all about it.
Yes, so we've recently located to the Cape as our primary and only residence. We don't have a garage and we don't have a basement, so, we're looking to ask for that 10 by 15 shed. The location of our property, so we have a small backyard, but it is fenced in, so we are looking to have that in the far right corner of the fenced-in area. The other area of the property has a septic over there, so that wasn't a viable option for us. I do have pictures of our property and other sheds in the area, if that's helpful to you or not, but I can share those as well.
Very good. That's pretty much it.
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you for that good presentation. Look at how fast we're going to move forward tonight. So, who did I pick on last? Mr. Kelly, I think we'll start with you. We always go from one end to the other.
Good evening. Where's the existing shed located right now?
Do you have the plot
Yeah, I do.
line?
I do.
Okay. So right now, it's kind of very close to the back deck, over on this side of the fence.
That's it for now?
Nothing else? Okay. Mr. Nicanello?
Thank you and good evening, and thanks for coming to Yarmouth for your rest of your whatever time you're going to stay. It's a very nice area, and I know Mr. Igo runs by this one too every chance he can. I think the bylaw is 6 feet, if I'm not correct, right, everybody? 6 feet from the property line. Is there a reason you can't go another 3 feet from the fence, or? Because then you wouldn't even be here, so.
Yeah.
Well, they do need to be here because it's surrounded by two streets, so it's
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually.
an end lot, unfortunately. So you still need the relief, but
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent question. Why can't you go 6 feet?
We can.
Oh, okay, sorry, well,
It's not built yet, right?
No.
no. I know it's a very compact
It is.
property. Mostly all of our properties in Yarmouth or on Cape Cod are very condensed from previous decades, and so without a garage, it's tough, and I know you're going to be here all year round, so you need that shed definitely.
Yes.
But that was the only thing I wanted to ask. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Igo?
I am very familiar with this house as well. My brother lives a street over, and a friend of mine lives down the end of Gilberton at the corner of Ma Shop. So I go by your house all the time. In fact, this is a very nice lot. It really adds to the subdivision because there's a lot of open space the way your lot runs out into the two streets there. Plus, you need a place to keep the boat, so you really can't put the shed over there, which I know you keep that. You do have a nice boat, by the way.
You do
No,
know the house.
I see what they want to do here. I was going to ask the same thing about the 6 feet, so if there's no problem with just moving it off the roadway a little bit. And it is tough, you're on a corner lot, so we are sensitive to people who come in seeking this type of relief when they are on a corner lot, because it's tough to get the things in there on that, because you have 2 fronts and 2 sides on a corner lot. That's all I had, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell?
I have no questions at this time.
All right, I don't want anybody to think I'm being too flippant tonight, but I am interested in why it is Mr. Igo is in every other part of the town except for my home when I've invited him over so many times to have a beer. So maybe it's I'm down a long driveway and he's afraid to run down it. But we do have course. I have no questions. I do say, though, that I couldn't agree to a 3-foot setback from a road layout. I just couldn't do it. So it's got to come back, okay? I understand everybody's need for sheds. I have one, and they are invaluable, even with a garage and a basement. So without a garage and a basement, I got to believe it's an incredible necessity. Before I get to any public commentary on it, I'm just going to read into the record two bits of correspondence. They are an email from Rick Gentili, who indicates that my name is Rick Gentili and I own 19 Sachem Road, West Yarmouth, Mass. My neighbor, Rick Densman, 9 Sachem Path, West Yarmouth, is seeking a permit to build a shed. I do not have an issue with his request. Thank you, Rick. It's awfully nice of your neighbor to give you the thumbs up, I guess. This is from Jeffrey Speen. It's dated February 6th. Again, another email greetings. I'm emailing on behalf of our neighbors, Rick and Lisa, who are applying for a permit to build a shed at 9 Sachem Path. Our family owns the abutting property at 30 Yelverton Lane, and just want to weigh in and say that we have no issues with their plans on this. Let me know if I can be of further assistance. Jeff Speen. Does anyone in our audience care to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the microphone.
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Lisa Hales, and I live at 33 Sachem Path. And we have great neighbors here, and I just want to say that I do approve it, and good luck. Because you're right, we all need a shed. So thank you.
Well, how nice of you to come out on what's turning out to be a cold night, unfortunately.
Yes.
So how
Thank you
very
very
nice.
much.
All right. Does anyone else care to speak in favor of the petition? Seeing none, does anyone care to speak in opposition to the petition? Seeing none, we now close it to public commentary, open it up to board discussion and deliberations. Mr. Campbell, your thoughts on it?
I have no problem with the shed as long as they, move it a little bit.
All right. Mr. Igo?
Yes, no, I think it's a reasonable request. They are looking for variance relief, and I do think literal enforcement of the bylaw would represent a hardship, and I think the hardship is owing to actually the shape of this particular lot, and also the fact that their septic system is placed where it is. And I think by granting this relief, I don't think we're going to derogate from the purpose and intent of the bylaw. So I do think they meet the criteria for a variance. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
How very articulately said. Mr. Niconello?
I have no comment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Kelly?
I think the fence being there and blocking the back of the shed, it's not going to, there's no neighbor right there abutting it, so I think it's reasonable.
Well, I agree with with everybody on the board, particularly Mr. Igo's commentary about meeting the criteria for a variance. We have, in many instances, been faced with corner lots, and particularly one this severe, which angles down dramatically from your front point to your rear lot line, gives you little option when you see where the septic system layout is. So, we're usually pretty hesitant to talk about any front yard relief, and though that's the way it's petitioned, it truly is backyard relief, which is where the shed will be positioned, right, facing what you consider the back of your home. But because it does, and I'm doing this as much for people at home who say, well, how come we gave you relief, because your back and your front both look to an abutting road, you have two fronts. So you have to petition it as a front yard relief, setback relief, and thus you're here. But I agree with the sentiment from everybody, provided that shed can be brought back 6 feet from the lot line. Okay. Anybody prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman. Petition 4843, that we grant the variance for the 2 or 3.5 front setback relief for the new 10 by 15 shed in a pre-existing non-conforming lot.
Would you entertain a condition that it be 6 feet back off the lot line?
I would entertain that, yes. Thank you. And also just like to make a comment. Did you do this drawing, sir?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Very good drawing, sir.
Okay.
Very good drawing.
Looks like you're using good materials, too. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
We did Mr. Campbell, thank you. So there's been a motion made, made by Mr. Niconello, seconded by Mr. Campbell, with the sole condition that the relief granted, if granted, is to include a condition that the shed be 6 foot back from the sideline abutting the street. All those in favor of that I'm sorry, does anyone care to talk about that motion before proceeding along? Hearing none, all those in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. That carries unanimously. A decision will be drafted. It will be filed with the town clerk's office. 20 days must elapse before that is considered a final decision. At 20 days, you will then be able to take the variance down to the Registry of Deeds and record it there and return proof of recordation back to Ms. Clark. But Ms. Clark will tell you all about that in the coming days, okay? Thank you both very much. Good to see you. Please go home and get warm.
Thanks.
All right. That brings us to the next matter. That is, let me get my list here. Petition 4844, Brenda Whitehead / Kelly, is that probably hyphen Kelly, I would imagine. 20 Buckwood Drive, South Yarmouth, Mass. That property is in a zoning district R40. Tonight, our applicant seeks a variance from zoning bylaw 203.5 for side setback relief for proposed pool on a pre-existing non-conforming lot. Good evening. Would you tell us who you are?
I need to recuse myself from this.
You do.
I'm part of this petition.
All right. All right. I see. Okay. All right. So we'll say goodbye to you, Mr. Kelly.
One table to another.
No, you have to actually leave the room.
And
Yeah.
come back in?
No, you
Oh.
while we're deliberating on it, because if you're recusing yourself, you have to leave.
To represent her for the petition itself?
We'll be nice, though.
If you're recusing yourself from the petition, I'm sorry, the rules do require you to leave the room.
I thought I was just recusing myself from voting on it.
Yeah, you can't present it in front of a board you're also a member of.
Oh,
Yes, for
I was unaware of
continuance.
that.
Yeah.
I would have definitely completely different.
Could he ask for a continuance?
I don't think we need a continuance. Why don't we open this and you can tell us a little bit about the pool and we'll
I don't know anything about it.
how about you just say you're putting a pool in and we'll ask a few questions. I think it's pretty self.
Let's can I just go with it for 3 minutes?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, this is-
5-minute break?
You want to just do
Sure.
it? That's how you want to do it here? Just-
Want to take a 5-minute break?
Take a 5-minute
Sure.
break.
5-minute break.
Why don't we take an intermission?
Intermission.
But he doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, don't worry, we're not going to pull anybody's teeth out while we're talking.
Doesn't he have a choice for continuance? If he has 4, there's only 4
Sorry for all that confusion.
No, that's okay. He tried to fill me in. I wasn't expecting to speak, so.
All right, well, listen, we usually are constituted by a 5-member board. It's my position as chair, and has been since I've been chair, that I give every petitioner the option to say, do you want to proceed with a 4-member board? Because then the vote would need, 1 vote, nay, would deny the petition. So if you want to proceed with a 4-member board, you're welcome to do that this evening. I'm not trying to chill you doing it. But if you asked to proceed with a 5-member board, we regularly agree to that and grant that request. What's your pleasure tonight?
I guess I'll stay.
You go ahead with it?
Yeah.
Sure, okay. Just I want you to know that that's what we do for everybody
Okay.
else, so would want to do it for you. Why don't you tell us what you'd like to about your petition?
Well, we have an 8-year-old, and we were gonna build a garage, but we want to put in a pool because we want to keep her home, obviously, and but we have we have letters from the neighbor right next to us, and I think he emailed that to you, and then I have a letter also from the neighbor across the street, and they're okay with it.
Okay.
And there's going to be a fence around a stockade fence around the whole pool, so I just don't
Sure.
think it's going to, people really aren't going to be able to see it or anything.
But is that the fence that you show in the drawing right here?
Yeah,
So that's going to be a stockade fence?
yes, yeah,
All right, and 6 feet high?
yeah.
Okay.
Do you want the letter from the other neighbor?
Is this something we don't already have?
One you don't, one
All
you
right,
do. He
then I would,
emailed.
sure, I would take that.
Okay.
For your knowledge, what we have to, you don't have copies, or you do for?
did, yeah.
Oh, aren't you efficient? All right, so we'll hand out copies to everybody. And again, this sounds silly, we're not trying to be a court here, but we are required to tell you that we mark these things as exhibits, and this will be Exhibit 1, okay?
Yeah. So we're actually we have a porch on the house now, so we're actually taking that off. So the actual property, the building is gonna be smaller, because we're taking the porch off and putting the pool over on the side of the porch.
Okay.
And I'm assuming this is an in-ground pool we're
Yes.
talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Nicanello, why don't you start on the questions?
Sure. Good evening, and thank you for coming to the Board of Appeals tonight. So, by looking at this diagram, have you seen this?
Yes.
Okay, so you have one.
He just showed it to me.
Oh, okay, yes. So have you ever read plans before?
No.
No, okay. So what it's showing me is it's showing the house right in the middle, the big square,
Yep,
and then it shows a proposed addition, right? You see that?
yep.
So is that going to be, what's that going to be?
That's just an extension of our kitchen.
Okay, all right. It has nothing to do with the petition tonight, but I just wanted to know what that was,
Right,
because
yeah, we're taking off the
I know.
porch and we're gonna extend the kitchen. Yeah.
Okay.
Our my daughter's getting bigger and the house is
Sure.
very small, so.
Yeah, I get it, yeah. I drove by, I saw it. yeah,
Okay.
Okay. So then, from that new proposed addition to where the proposed pool is, you have 9 foot 5 inches of what? What is that going to be?
Probably just nothing, or the a pool deck, but the pool deck wouldn't be the whole amount, so probably nothing.
Okay, well, that's what I was asking. I
Yeah.
didn't know if it was a deck or if it was going to be nothing, because...
No, I don't think, yeah.
Right. Because then, you're here because you're only going to have 10 feet from the edge of the pool.
On the other side, right.
The other side. So my question was, why couldn't that pool just come back over a little bit more towards the house?
I believe it has to be a certain distance from the house.
Okay, well, that's...
I'm not
one-
positive.
What? Yeah.
I think that's what it is, so.
Okay, yeah.
And the 10 feet, that's the neighbor that emailed you guys.
Right. Oh,
He's
sure.
the one right there, yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And now, the way the land is sloped, because it's not flat,
We're going to make that flat.
so how you going to make it flat from the top? You're making it flat from the bottom and bring it up, because
No, we're going to take the hill out.
you're taking the hill out.
That what you
So the
mean?
pool will actually be sunken in a little bit.
Right.
So what's going to happen to that 10-foot side? Is it going to like just fall into your pool like this a little bit? You have a wall there or something? You're not sure?
I'm not sure.
Okay. all the questions I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, I
No,
just
you
wasn't
did fine.
expecting to have to
Thank
talk.
you.
Mr. Igo?
I don't think I have any questions right now. I see what the plan is. I'm okay right now. Thank you.
Mr. Campbell?
No, just a comment. I mean, I agree with Mr. Nick. No, if there was a way we could push it like, 5 feet, that would certainly, work, but I don't know if we can or not. I just don't know, so. Anyway, that's all I have right now.
Well, I have a couple. The proposed addition is I understand it's not before us this evening, but it does weigh into the distance because you're showing the distance of the pool from that proposed addition.
Right.
And if the proposed addition weren't there, then clearly you could move it back 20 feet from your sideline. You wouldn't even need relief here. So what is there now in that location where you're showing the proposed addition and proposed covered patio?
It's
Is
just
there
a
anything?
porch. It's just a covered porch.
Covered porch?
Yeah.
And how far does that extend out from the house?
I don't know.
Probably what's there now. It doesn't show that it's not there, so it's probably, and that would be the structure as well.
Yeah. Well, is it about the same 10 feet?
I'm thinking, yeah.
Okay. When I considered these sorts of things in the past, I've always been interested, yeah, I've always been intrigued by the fact that, but for the fact it's in the ground, no relief would be required. You could put up one of these mammoth, though very unattractive, above-ground swimming pools and build decking all around it. And we couldn't say a whole bunch of beans about it. But once we put them in the ground, suddenly it becomes a big issue. So your lot coverage, when done, will be only 12% of the lot. That's good. And certainly not going in your front yard, so I can't see any place else on the lot for it to go.
Yeah, because the septic's in the back, so.
All right, I have no further questions. We do have, as you indicated, some correspondence, so let me...
Is the porch coming off?
Yes.
They're gonna make that a kitchen.
We're extending our kitchen, yeah.
All right. So, correspondence. We have received tonight a letter dated February 27 from Gunnar Hagan. My wife and I live at 21 Buckwood Drive. We are directly across the street from 20 Buckwood Drive. Brenda's family has owned this home for nearly 40 years, and we have had the pleasure of being neighbors with various members of their family. We have reviewed the plans that the Kellys have submitted regarding a variance for a new pool for the daughter and granddaughters. We know they always do things together as a family, and this would be a great way for them to keep their family close. We see no reason to oppose these plans. We in fact look forward to the updated landscape. The pool would be behind a stockade fence and will not even be visible to any neighbors. We also feel that having an addition to the property would create more value to their property and in return would increase the value of properties around them. We strongly support the approval of this petition. From Mark Grillis.
No, that's the correspondence to Bev. He was responding to Bev, who sent the email.
It's an email dated February 27. Hi, Bev. I'm not sure the reason you sent this email to me. I can only assume that you received a postcard. And that would be concerning, I guess. Beverly Canfield Woods. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. So Mr. Grillis received an email, but properly forwarded on to us, and that's an email of, again, February 27 from Beverly Canfield Woods. I just received a postcard here in Florida, Ray, the referenced. My home is at 23 Nightingale Drive. I am very much opposed to this being approved. Our lots are small, and this would set a precedent for future requests in the area. I apologize for the late response. However, I received the notice just recently. And don't we all wish we were down with Ms. Cannonfield Woods this evening? Florida's warmer, I understand, talking to my daughter today. We have another one from Chris Reed. It's an email dated February 27, and he says, my name is Chris Reed. You know, I made a presumption there. I'm assuming it's Christopher. If it's Christine or something, I truly apologize, whoever Chris Reed is. I live at 24 Buckwood Drive, South Yarmouth, Mass. I am a direct abutter to Tim McKellar and his family. Tim and his neighbors have been my neighbors since I moved into my house in June of 2014. We have always had a good relationship. I had the opportunity to speak to Tim about his plans to build a pool in his yard. I feel as though if any problems arise, we will be able to work them out. I have no reservations to him building his pool. That's it for our correspondence.
Could I say one thing?
Sure.
When we moved into the house, we didn't have a child, and at 46, I had a child, so we kind of just trying to make do. Trying to make do with what we had. When we moved in, we weren't expecting to have our family grow, so.
Sure. Well, thank you. All right, so now, does anyone in our audience care to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the microphone before talking to us. And seeing none, does anyone care to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, please come to the microphone before speaking to us. Tell us who you are and where you reside. We don't bite, so it's okay to come right up. Would you tell us who you are and where you live? I'm sorry?
My name is Deborah Carner, and I live at 16 Buckwood, right next door to 20 Buckwood. And I am opposed to a pool only because our whole street, they are above us, and all of the houses below them all have water in the basement. So you're reconstructing something that it's just going to make it worse for us. That's why I'm opposed to it.
In terms of your fear that the pool will fail and water will come rushing out?
Oh, yeah. I mean, anything can happen. And the lots are very small.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel that that lot is big enough to put a pool in ground.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
I have pictures of water.
Well, you can, if you're going to show them to us, I have to then receive them and keep them.
Okay.
So it's however you want to deal with it. If you want me to take them, I'll be happy
Well,
to do it.
this picture was taken a long time ago.
Sure, no problem.
But this is the water problems that we've had.
And now, if you just wait till you go back to the mic to speak of it, I'm going to mark this as Exhibit 2, and I'm going to keep it. All right? You have to go back to the microphone now, if you would. Oh, did you want to take this with you? So you could talk about it, or?
Oh, I have another one.
Okay. Good. Well, if you go back there, and again, it's so everybody at home, because you know, because you watch probably every week we're in the session, that a lot of people sit at home and watch these meetings, and we don't want them to be deprived of every word you say, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we have Exhibit 2, and it shows, would this be, I'm looking to the right of your photo, is that your home?
No, the one to the left is my home.
Is your home. One to the right is the Kelly home?
No, that's the next one down.
Okay, and so this is where there's been some kind of a water problem on your street?
A lot of water in that neighborhood.
Why don't you tell us about that water? When was that picture taken?
78.
78?
Yes.
Was that a hurricane that year? Or?
No. The people that lived in the house next to me on the other side of me.
I remember the blizzard.
They actually fought to have drainage put in the streets. So we do have drainage on the streets, but we still get water. I mean, 2018 was a pure example. So doing any kind of in-ground restructuring close to me, I fear, because we have a lot of groundwater, it's just not a happy thing.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you for bringing this. Where would the Kelly house be in this photo?
If you're looking at my house, to the left.
It's to the left. So your house is here, and their house is here.
Yep. and they
Is
sit
that-
up high, and I'm
Right,
at
so that's the,
bottom.
okay, so this is actually the Buckwood Street you're showing.
Buckwood Drive,
Oh,
yeah.
Buckwood, okay, thank you very much.
Well, Buckwood Drive underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Buckwood Lake.
Now, how often does this happen? How often does this sort of thing happen?
Well, we don't have water like that on the street because the drains have been put in.
Oh, okay.
But
Sure.
everyone, in 2018, every house on that street below them was pumping water like for 6 months because of the groundwater.
Water table issue then.
High water table.
Are there sump pumps in the basement there?
Yep.
Is that what you're talking about?
But this whole problem's been corrected, huh?
That's been corrected, but
Okay. Do you want to say anything else, or?
no, I think that's it. I don't feel that a pool would be, something that is relevant to that neighborhood.
Good enough.
Can I say something about that?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Not right now, you can't.
Okay.
You're going to be allowed after.
Okay.
Because if we go back and forth, we're going to be here all
that's
night
fine.
having a
Nope.
dialogue that
That's
just
fine.
going to say the same thing 20 ways.
Gotcha.
So everybody that cares to speak in opposition to the petition, we've asked for people who speak in favor. No one stood up. We're going to ask for people that speak in opposition. And when they come to the microphone, we're going to let them speak fully, and then you can address their concerns, okay?
Yep, thank
All
you.
right. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
That's it.
Okay. Does anyone else care to speak in opposition? Please feel free to come right up.
Hi. In regard to the,
Would you tell us who you are and where you live?
my name is Paul Boken. I live on 42 Nightingale. It's one street over. And the grading, want me to wait before I continue?
No, please. No,
The
go right ahead.
grading of the streets are kind of similar. I live at the top of a little bit of an incline, and it seems to be a similar setup as on Buckwood. So it kind of tapers down. And I've been a carpenter for many years in this area, and I know that in the Captain Village area, there's a very high water table that's kind of irregular. And one of my friends actually lives on 1 Buckwood, and he has to have a couple sump pumps going quite often. And I'm not trying to be obtuse about or negative about a neighbor, but I do know that it is a concern because from time to time, pools need to be drained. And I can't see anywhere where that water would go, even with town drainage. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
And that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's always great to see people coming out showing an interest in these matters.
I'm not trying to be bad to a neighbor.
We're not taking it that way at all, sir. All right. And does anyone else care to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, please feel free to come right up and tell us who you are.
Hi, my name is Candy Van Skyver. I live on 23 Nightingale Drive, and my property is diagonally behind the property where the pool is proposed. And I'd like to submit to you a plot plan from where my house is
Feel free to come up and give it to me.
where my house is located.
Okay, it's okay. I think the mic picked it up. Thank you.
That's my property.
All right. You can go back and tell us all about it. Now, this is, so you know, going to be retained by the board, and we mark this as Exhibit 3.
Okay. And Exhibit 3 will show you that the back of my house, which is where my bedrooms are, is just 30 feet from where the pool would be located. It's 30 from the back of my property. So I do have definitely noise concerns that I think need to be addressed. And
Noise concern?
No, noise. Lighting.
Lighting?
If there was lighting late at night for a pool.
Proposed lighting for this?
Yeah.
No.
Noise, lighting, these are just things that concern me. And also, at the moment, visual, because right now there are just, I can see right from my back patio or from the back of my house right through to where the pool would be installed next to the house. So I think the plan I had looked at called for chain link fencing, which caused a concern because that would create, my coming out into my yard and being part of the pool party, pretty much. And it's very close. So what that leads to is I just feel our lots are so small. We all have lived so nicely together. We respect each other, but we're in close proximity to each other. And I think that there are currently already lots of things in the yard. There's a huge playscape. There's an in-ground pool for children. There's a shed. There's a large trampoline, and I don't know how much of that would remain, but all of that contributes to noise. I don't know if that is in respect, if there's respect for set lines as things are there now. So all of this together does cause concern for adding a pool. And I do agree that it sets a precedent if we approve this, that with the size of these lots, if we all wanted to put pools at virtually the back of our driveways, that causes, it's not visually attractive. Is it a home improvement or isn't it? Maybe not. So I think.
It's a permitted use. You know that, correct?
Yes. Yes.
All of you could have a pool.
Yes, exactly. But where the variance is the problem is it's only 10 feet from the set line.
Well,
from the boundary.
Just, if I could just make a point relative to your house.
Yeah.
It's well beyond any setbacks from your house. You understand
Oh,
that,
yes,
right?
yes. That's why I'm talking about noise and visual for that. I think it's a consideration because we do hear each other.
Well, I don't think we have the purview to discuss noise unless this is a commercial use.
And that leads to one of the questions that I have, like if there was an agreement that, the pool would not be used after a certain hour or whatever, then is that, how is that?
Well, the noise bylaw, after 11 PM at night,
Okay,
you cannot make more than a certain, they use a decibel meter.
Yeah.
They come down and what they do, let's say someone's having a big party next to you.
So
or you're
then
having a big party. Let's say you're having
yeah,
a big party.
which would be unusual.
Okay, well, you never know. So you're having a big party, and it goes on after 11 o'clock, and what happens is the police come down, and they have this little meter, and they face it towards your house, and if it reads above a certain
Then they knock.
then they knock at your door, and they say,
Then they knock,
and then
yeah.
they say, we're coming back in 10 minutes, and if you don't knock
Yeah.
it off, then somebody might get in trouble. But that's
Now,
up
he
to-
knows about that, but I've never had that problem at my house, okay?
I wish I did. Okay, all right. Those are generally my concerns. I just think it's not the neighborhood for agreeing to the variance. It sets a bad precedent, and I hope it won't happen.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
One more thing that I'd like to add.
Sure, we'll let you add it, but let's make it quick.
As far as I know, most of the plots in that area there, including my own, are approximately about 100 by 100. And that's not it's a quarter of an acre. And it's rather small, so I just wanted to mention about the
Oh, I think
relative
everybody on this
size.
board's pretty familiar with the
Okay,
neighborhood.
good. Very good.
Oh, yeah. And you're right, the lots are all about the same size, and they're a very nice neighborhood. That's not to say it isn't. All I know is every time I go in there, I get lost. It's the only comment I'm going to make about it. Now, does anybody else care to speak in opposition to the...
I'll make it quick.
You go ahead and say what you want.
Hi, I'm Patty Seal, and I'm at 13 Nightingale. And I just was concerned about the noise. and the lighting, and that, I mean, I have no problem with children and pools and having fun. They have an existing pool now, and the kids have a great time. That's about it. Let's see, what else? Just about right back to their house, right?
Yeah.
Like, right.
Gotcha.
And Everett Boy owned the home before I did. And there is a buffer there. I have trees and a fence, a stockade fence. But there is what do you call it, a jungle gym or a play set or whatever. And it can get loud, with the kids and the screaming. And but I love kids. I have grandkids, my own kids. But the lots are small. So that's about all I had to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Got one more person in the room. You're okay. All right, you gave me the hands off. All right.
No, I will tell you.
Oh, gee, I didn't mean to cause you to come up. But since you're here, why don't you tell us what you got to say?
I'm Elizabeth Wolf. I actually live on Harvard Street, which is even a little jog further over than Nightingale. I am in a low spot. I have pictures here of floods over the years, but I have a sump pump. And the people before me actually had to re-pour the basement because of flooding, so that I have less headroom in my basement, which is sufficient for me, but I'm a small person. And it's very serious. 12 people that I remember now last year had sump pumps going because of the fact that we're all at this low spot. And
Where does all this water pump out to?
Well, this is what I wonder. Where does it go? Because
Well, you tell me, where does your water go when you're pumping it out?
I had a neighbor who moved some time ago, but he fought to have 2 holes put in the ground. And as far as I know, they are just holes. They do not lead to any pipe or any reservoir anywhere, but they do absorb the water temporarily, as long as we don't have, a monsoon.
It goes back down into the water, the groundwater, right? In other words, it goes
comes
back to
down
the
the
same
street.
water table that's causing the problem.
It's the groundwater that's causing the problem.
Yeah, sure. And when you pump it out and you put it on the ground, it goes back into the groundwater, right?
You have a lot of rain, the water table comes up, your basement gets flooded, everybody's got a sump pump,
It's a horrible thing about Cape Cod living. We got high water tables down here, no doubt.
But I'm at the same level, actually, if you were to do a leveling, as my friend Barbara and other people. We're all at this low spot. You probably know where the supermarket is, the Stop and Shop on Station Avenue. Well, that is at a high spot, and then it comes down. So all of us are living very much lower. And I am concerned that more things should block what I consider the area that is absorbent. I mean, I know we have sand, which isn't very absorbent, but nevertheless, if we start putting in more septic systems, more in-ground pools, we're actually compromising the area that could be absorbed, or an absorbing area for the water. I hope I'm making sense. I know I have an accent. I've been here 62 years.
Oh, your accent's fine.
And I think I can still communicate.
I was just thinking how charming your accent was, so please stop it. We're delighted that you're here.
Well, I was...
Wherever you come from. I won't venture a guess, though I suspect I know. Go ahead. One last thing, and then we're going to, unless you got something new, we're going to move
No,
on.
I just support the other people. I believe that they are really, truly, not just objecting, but actually they have reasonable doubts about the safety of this, for one thing, and the flooding that might increase.
All righty then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. Now, you have a short window of opportunity to respond to these concerns. What would you like to say?
Well, but the concern about the pool, the flooding, I think what the neighbors are confused about, we're putting a pool, we're not here to ask if we can put the pool in. We're asking if we can put the pool closer to the line. So basically, we're putting the pool in no matter what. So I don't know, I think their concerns aren't really relevant. And as far as the noise, we've lived there, my family's owned the house for 40 years, and we've never had a problem with the police and noise, and even with the kids out playing, even she's 8, we've never had a problem. Nobody's ever complained, nobody's ever called the police on us. So I don't think they really have just cause for that.
But you raise an interesting point. You know, I was thinking to myself as I was listening to people talk about a movie I watched once where 2 police officers, one was in the pool and one was talking to him. And the pool split. It was above the ground pool. And that flooded the entire neighborhood. Huh? No. No, Candy didn't jump in, but it was just such a vivid depiction in my mind as everybody was talking tonight about this very large above-the-ground pool splitting down its seam and flooding the neighborhood. And I think probably above-the-ground pools, which we can't do a darn thing about, probably fail a lot more frequently than any in-the-ground pool. I think from my perspective, as Mr. Igo so appropriately pointed out, in-ground pools are permitted uses within this residential neighborhood, whether it's an R25, R40, whatever the size of the lot. So those are permitted uses by right. And as you say, you could always move it over some feet. I'm not sure I understand what the proximity to the sideline matters to this whole dialogue. And quite frankly, I'm sorry, but I encourage kids to play, and I think most people do. I don't think anybody there suggested they weren't encouraging it. But of course, they do have concerns that they don't want to hear it at 10 o'clock at night with lights flashing while people are jumping in off a diving board, and that happens. But, you know, that's why we have police that get called when noise problems exist and they need to be abated. Mr., who do we start with? You? Do we start with you?
Yeah, you can start the other end.
All right, Mr. Campbell, what are your thoughts?
It's a permitted use. I would like to see it back a little bit, though, like, the 15 feet, at least 15 feet. And the other option would be, could they do a buffer, like a tree buffer, like a tree line, maybe? And is that anything that we can...
Buffer trees?
Yeah, like along the,
Backside?
So maybe...
Side or back?
I was thinking, well, it's closer to the side, but I'm really concerned more about the back, because this abutter doesn't bother him so much.
To the back.
But I don't know if we can...
The back,
Yeah.
we can't really.
enforce it, but
Yeah.
it would be nice if there was a buffer there for the neighbor, you know what I mean? So they wouldn't see it visually, and, it would buffer the noise a little bit.
Yeah,
That's all
which that's not a problem.
Yeah, Aphrodite's a beautifully brought one up.
No, we're done on taking any further commentary from anybody. It's now open for the board to have discussions, so.
That's my comment.
Okay. What are your thoughts, Mr. Igo?
Well, as we did discuss, it is a permitted use here, and the issue that we're here about is not the distance between the back and the pool. It's that sideline of 10 feet. I think it's reasonable, the 10-foot setback. The neighbor to that side is in favor of this petition. I think the biggest concern I'm hearing tonight is the water runoff, which there's not going to be any water runoff from an in-ground pool. If there is, and the thing failed and flooded out the neighbor, then there'd be a liability problem.
Yeah, and you
perhaps.
call a lawyer the next morning.
Yeah, okay. But in terms of that being a problem with drainage or anything, it's not going to be. You have a water table problem in that area. Everybody does. Like we said, the water table comes up, everybody's cellar floods, you got to pump them out, it dries out. It's been that way for a million years. It's going to continue that way. The noise issue, I think we covered that. I mean, that's an issue for the police. If they're having a party, call the cops. The lighting, I haven't seen any proposed lighting, so there's no lighting requested. If there was lighting requested, the lighting would be required to stay on her property.
Yeah.
All right, and not go onto your property.
No,
So
it's
there
not to
will-
spill over. You're right.
Yeah, you can't spill over. But that's not before us tonight. So, I mean, it is a permitted use. I think it's a reasonable request. We can talk about the variance criteria in a minute, which I do think they qualify for a variance as well. We've allowed a lot of pools in different parts of the town. They've asked for side setbacks, some of it other than side setback. I know a party over in Blue Rock Heights that we gave front setback relief to put a pool in. He was pretty close to the side as well as the front. So they're going to have a 6-foot stockade fence, so I don't think there's going to be a visual issue here, because I don't think you're going to be able to see the pool. I think you can probably see an above-ground pool that's there right now, but once this one is recessed, you're not going to see it at all.
Where are you I'm seeing a chain link fence.
Well, they're saying it's going to be 6 feet high. I saw chain link, but I'm told it's a 6-foot stockade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it intended to be chain link or stockade?
Well, it's a stockade, that's fine.
So we'll do a 6-foot stockade.
That at least is a noise buffer.
Yeah.
Noise, and then you can't see it. You're removing the above-ground pool. You're not going to have 2 pools.
No, we're not having 2.
Okay, all right. We just want to make sure we're running a swimming club over there.
All right.
But in terms of the variance, I think they meet the variance criteria as well. I think, a literal enforcement would be a hardship. I think the hardship in this case is owing to the topography. I think if they didn't have a topography matter or issue, then they'd be able to put that pool in the backyard, but the reason they can't do that is because they've got a special septic system in there that's got to be held up so high. Or the soil conditions probably would be a better reason. So the hardship's owing to soil conditions, and I don't think if we grant them the relief that they're requesting, which is a permitted use, that we're derogating from the purpose intent of the bylaw. So this petition, I believe, meets the criteria for a variance as well. So I do appreciate what the neighbors' concerns are, but I think when this is in, if it does get built, I plan on supporting this. I don't think that they're really going to be affected. And I think if there's any noise, I think if you look over the fence and say, hey, could you quiet down? She looks like someone who'll probably be quiet down. Or she'll invite you over to the party.
Right.
Another way to deal with it might be to buy yourself megaphones and give the noise right back.
In terms of the drainage along the streets, what I would suggest to do, I don't know if you've done it or not, but call the DPW, the Highway Department, have them come down and inspect it, see if they can put some more catch basins in for you. A lot of times that'll solve the problem. It is a problem, I know that, it's historically, and I'm sure the town's aware of it, but a lot of times that will help a lot. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Nicanello?
Yes, thank you. I did have a question about the chain link or stockade, so it will be a stockade.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, and I did take a look on Google Earth. There's already 2 other pools in your neighborhood. In Poinsettia Road, there's 2 pools on the houses, so the neighborhood is not pools, so thank you very much.
Okay,
That's not a neighborhood.
please. We run these things with as much decorum as we can to people that speak to us, and we expect the same back when we're talking amongst ourselves. So, from my perspective, 1, it's a permitted use. 2, I think it also could have been applied for by way of special permit, quite frankly. We've granted special permits when we've watched house additions be substantially closer to sidelines, which were raised above the ground to 2 stories, and we've considered them on their merits and approved them on their merits. To me, this is a pretty unintrusive use. It's not going to impact, from any experience I have in life, it's not going to impact any groundwater issue. Groundwater is groundwater. It is what it is on Cape Cod, and particularly in many places in the town of Yarmouth. Where I live, it's a problem, and it's a tough problem because you worry about your mold and your mildew and everything else. But it's just a reality of living on Cape Cod. If you build a basement, you might downright well encounter water. I agree with Mr. Igo that all the requirements of conditions and requirements of a grant of a variance have been met. I know that I'm going to vote in favor of it. Is anybody prepared to make a motion on the only condition that I would suggest, which is that in lieu of a chain link fence, it be a 6-foot stockade fence?
So moved.
Mr. Igo moves on that condition, Mr. Igo?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Nicanello seconds. On that motion made by Mr. Igo, seconded by Mr. Nicanello, to grant the petition relief of a variance, subject to the condition that the pool be surrounded by a 6-foot stockade fence. Does the board care to have any discussion before moving it along to a vote? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 That carries unanimously? Yes? Okay. All right. That means that the petition has been granted. The variance will issue 20 days after the decision is drafted and filed with the town clerk's office. That 20 days is a period that must elapse, and if no appeal be taken, you then take that variance to the Barnstable Registry of Deeds, you record it, and return proof of recordation back to our board, okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We have 2 other matters on our agenda. They involve a letter from Sean Mahoney of SAI Communications, who writes us, by the way, I don't know how many members of this board sat on the telephone tower over behind the... Sure. Over behind the post office. But the flagpole is now up.
It's up.
Did you see our lovely new flagpole?
I haven't had a chance. I've heard about it, though. I think
Has a beautiful gold ball on top, and
it looks like a flagpole.
it sure does. Sir, we're still going on in the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
It was just about the subject. so-
Yeah, we're still having a meeting, okay? Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, it looks lovely. The nice, I don't know if it's
You know
working
something? I
yet.
thought it was going to be bigger than that. It's not that big.
70 feet? Yeah, it's 70 feet, pretty
Yeah,
tall.
but, I looked at it.
Did you see the cherry picker they used to put it up?
No.
Oh, my God.
Huge, yeah.
All right, so we have does everybody have this letter?
Yes.
Well, read it to us, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, huh? You want me to read it to you?
Only 8 pages.
Like a bedtime story.
Okay, so they've written us for some purpose, and maybe someone who's read it can tell me what that purpose is.
They want to defer the landscaping until the spring.
Yeah, I'm not inclined to even consider anything like that until they come before us, right? I'd like to hear it I don't know.
What do they want to do?
Who sat on it? I sat on it.
I did.
Mr. Nicanello sat on it.
What they wanted, they...
3 other members
I
who
know.
aren't here this evening
Yeah.
did not sit on it. I think they need to come back before our board to change any of the conditions we imposed.
Oh,
I don't feel comfortable voting on it.
If they want to change a condition, they got to come back.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable voting on it when we only have 2 members that actually considered the merits of the petition. The last matter is one I need to recuse myself from.
Okay.
Take that. Okay.
Housing assistance?
All right. This is a letter from Housing Assistance dated February 14, 2020, and it's to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Dear members of the board, as you know, Housing Assistance Corporation is serving as the monitoring agent for several affordable developments in Yarmouth. As monitoring agent, HAC is responsible for ensuring the ongoing compliance with affordable unit owners with the terms of their affordable housing restriction, including requests for refinancing, capital improvements, and resale. This letter is to update you on the status of affordable units in Yarmouth, for which HAC acts as monitoring agent. Below is a chart which breaks down any new updates for 2019. Development, Mill Pond, affordable units, 12, resales, 0, capital improvements, 0, refinances, 1, foreclosures, 0.
Good.
I can be reached at 508-771-5400, extension 103, with any questions or concerns. We look forward to working with you on future affordable housing development. Sincerely, Romy Mayman, monitoring consultant.
So it looks like it's just an update from,
This is an update from Housing Assistance.
yep, just to let us know that,
Let us know what's going on.
The only thing that I attached, I think, copies of that decision, and with that letter, you should have got a copy of the decision, and it was condition number 13.
I never received that.
I don't have,
That, you don't have a copy of the decision?
does Steve have it in his
Yeah.
file? Let me go back over
Yep,
here
take a
to
look.
the chairman's
You just-
file.
And possibly that's why, because
Okay, let's,
it's
let's take a
condition number
look.
13. I think I have a little.
How many
sticky-
people on this board are sitting on that?
It's in the yellow folder, Sean.
It's in the yellow folder. This is the,
It's attached to that letter.
this is Sean Mahoney here.
Yep, next letter.
Oh, here?
Yep.
Oh, okay, let's move
And then
this
where that
one.
sticky is, that's
Let
the
me get
condition.
that one out. Okay, the sticky. Let's go to here. Oh. Condition number 12, just so we know what we're talking about here. We're talking about the decision of March 19th, 2018. Is that Kelco or Selco?
Selco.
Selco.
Selco Partnership DBA Verizon Wireless? How
Is that the right one for the housing?
assistance? Is that housing assistance?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
that's,
so sorry.
you better hang up that.
Yep, let's just scratch that.
That's a drop
Strike-
call.
No, actually, in the law business, Sandy, we use the word strike that. Okay.
It's a drop call.
It's a drop call. Yeah. Okay, so we're not going to deal with condition number 12 tonight.
Nope.
But we will report to Housing Assistance on what is happening insofar as Hack and Mill Pond. So everybody's up to date. Anybody have any questions? Hearing none. Anything else on the agenda tonight, Sandy? Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second? Hearing that.
Thank
All
you.
those in favor? That carries unanimous. We are adjourned.